Blessings, servants of God. My name is Pastor Chikeze Okole. I'm so excited to be part of this conference today. May God bless all the members of Gospel Ministers Hangout International Ebonyi State Branch. Right now, it's time for our Minister's Mindset. Minister's Mindset is a time we deliberate on some sensitive issues that borders on our Christian practices and behavior. It is a time we rub minds together to better understand our position and confessions as Christians. Brethren, this Minister's Mindset is a time we listen to each other and learn objectively for a better delivery of our pastoral work. I want you to always remember that nobody knows it all, and then everybody is entitled to his or her own opinion without any interruption. Men of God, please bear in mind that the objective of this exercise is not to identify who is right or wrong, no. But the truth is, all of us having come from a different background and orientation, this Minister's Mindset will create an opportunity for us to have a second look at some age-long beliefs and practices which are shaping our understanding of who God is and our relationship with Him. And this has in turn impacted positively or negatively on the work which God has committed into our hands. This is so crucial, men of God, because of the level at which this our belief and the practices have affected the body of Christ in general. Today, in this section of Minister's Mindset, we are going to consider two scenarios that are common in churches and how it affects us as ministers of God. Please listen carefully as you watch this video. Scenario 1. Ms. Okon is a member of Jesus the Most High Ministry. She has been looking for the fruit of the womb for over 5 years. Late November last year, the Lord answered her prayers and she became pregnant. She was due to deliver this week. Her husband had taken her to the hospital since Thursday, that is 2 days ago, when she started having contraction. Mrs. Okon had been in labor now for over 20 hours. The doctor observed that Mrs. Okon had stilled labor. Stilled labor is an inability of the cervix to open, plus other complications. Early hours of this morning, that is Saturday, today, the doctor informed Mrs. Okon and her husband that an urgent cesarean section was required to save both mother and child. Mrs. Okon quickly sent a message across to her pastor, and he arrived immediately. On getting to the hospital, Mrs. Okon informed the pastor what her doctor told her and his suggestions about carrying out a cesarean operation on her. Right there, the pastor quickly rejected it and began to preach to her that such operation is devilish and should not happen to a child of God. He went on to quote Exodus chapter 1, verse 15 to 20, using it to admonish her. Because Mrs. Okon and her husband trusted their pastor, they have vehemently refused to give their consent to the doctor to proceed with the cesarean operation. As we speak right now, Mrs. Okon is still in pain and confused in the hospital, while her pastor has invited the church prayer warrior team, and the prayers are going on outside the church right now. Question 1. What can you say about the pastor's understanding of Exodus chapter 1, verse 15 to 20? Did he quote out of context or not? Question 2. Mrs. Okon is still in the hospital in pain and confused. What would you advise her to do? Question 3. Would undergoing cesarean section water down her testimony? If yes or no, explain how. Scenario 2. Mr. and Mrs. Uche are from a polygamous family and they attend Jesus of Heaven ministry. They are very committed members of their church and they support both the church and the pastor's family financially to a great extent. Mr. Uche had experienced a series of misfortunes that negatively impacted his business. Mrs. Uche, on the other hand, is recovering from miscarriages, which was her third in a row. In recent times, Mrs. Uche had been having a series of nightmares in which most of her dreams seems to be pointing towards her husband brother Michael. Mr. and Mrs. Uche had confronted Michael's family severally, accusing them of being behind their misfortune, and this has resulted into serious altercation and nearly physical fight. Coupled with other bad happenings in the family, Mr. and Mrs. Uche decided to take their matter to their pastor. After narrating their ordeal to the pastor, the man of God decided to organize a special 3-day deliverance prayer section for the family. Day 1. Prayer point for day 1 was a prayer of die by fire targeted at Mr. Uche's brother, that is Michael. Day 2. Prayer point was a back to sender targeted at the same Mr. Uche's brother, that is Michael, and his family. Day 3. Day 3 was a family liberation and land healing aimed at undoing all the evil that Mr. Uche's brother Michael might have buried in the family compound in the village. When Mr. Uche's brother, that is Michael, when Michael got wind of what has happened, he confronted Mr. Uche, and a very serious family squabble ensued. As the matter continued, over time, Mr. Uche's brother, that is Michael, began to have his own nightmare, suggesting that Mr. Uche's family is making an attempt on his life. Michael then decided to take the matter to his own pastor. Thereafter, a strong deliverance prayer began against the family of Mr. Uche. As we speak now, there is a prayer war going on between these two families. Question 1. Do you see anything wrong with the way these pastors conducted themselves in the discharge of their duty? And if yes, how would you handle it differently? Who is to be blamed? That's number 2 question. Who is to be blamed between the two brothers? And how do you reconcile these families?